episode of the Astrology of Terrible Things, and this is the second episode we're recording on February 1st, 2026. We are the podcast that shares astrology charts of terrible events, and we have to guess what happened on that day with all the identifying information removed. We just figure out the event based on the position of the planet. I'm your host, Karla Heath. I'm a writer in Los Angeles, and I'm here with our new co-host, Emily Simile. Find her on TikTok at Emily Simile, Emily spelled with an I-E. Welcome, Emily.
Yay, thank you. It's always great to be talking with you.
And Emily has the Astrology of Terrible Things TikTok. So you have short form versions of this podcast. Joining us today is Karla Herschell. She's a healer, an intuitive, and host of the Cosmic Batter podcast, coming to us from the Southern Hemisphere. Welcome, Karla.
Thanks for having me. Love being here.
And Karla's socials are in the show notes.
Here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an Aries rising with Mars in the 12th house in Pisces. 12th house ruled chart. Fascinating. Jupiter then is in the 6th house in Virgo, where Jupiter's in its detriment. This is a day chart with the sun in Sagittarius, so also relevant to Jupiter in the 6th house in Virgo. And the sun is applying to a conjunction with Pluto in the 9th house in Sagittarius. Venus is in the 10th house in Capricorn with Mercury, had passed a conjunction with Mercury a few days prior. Then the moon is in Taurus in the 2nd house, and Saturn is retrograde in Cancer, with making an opposition to that Venus in Capricorn. And the midheaven is really close to conjunction with Chiron, and Neptune and Uranus are in the 11th house in Aquarius. And I think I got all of them. So 12.
That chart ruler here in Pisces Mars is also the greatest malefic since it's a day chart. So this is not the best, not the happiest Mars. And then, okay, so the 12th house with Mars, this is like the 12th house being isolation and escapism.
Being ruled by a Jupiter in the 6th house.
It's kind of giving hospitals.
It's giving hospitals. Is it?
Yes.
Is it in a hospital?
No.
Oh, wow.
No.
And not after or anything either.
Okay. I really was like, there's somebody who's sick. Sickness was something that I was thinking.
And the Jupiter is heading into, no, actually, just kidding. Hi. The Mars has passed an opposition to Jupiter a couple days prior.
There could be a lot of people in an unlucky situation, an unlucky, like violent, isolated situation. There might be like, specifically with that Pisces Mars, it could be more like emotional manipulation, like deeper, also like,
you know what? No.
Like drowning.
I'm so many of these planets are in Earth signs. Is this a natural disaster?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Emily actually said some great keywords.
Okay.
I honestly am is this related to a cult?
No.
No. Okay. I was just saying that because of the Sagittarius energy happening here in the 9th house.
Is there something financial about this with the moon in the 2nd house?
I would say money was raised after.
Okay.
Not financial involved in the, incident. And I also would say, because I feel like last time I was too focused on the incident, but the chart like continues. It's not a cult at all, but there was like a huge following, after.
Like people paid attention to this.
Yeah.
And did people die?
One.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Pisces, Mars in the 12th, ruled over by that Jupiter, and then we go to Mercury, and then we're going to Saturn, and then we go to the moon, and then we go to Venus, and then we go to Saturn again. So Saturn in the 4th house, I'm thinking like splitting up of families, harsh, difficult family dynamics, maybe an abusive family happening behind the scenes.
But it is a day chart. And I've heard that retrograde Saturn in its detriment is actually sometimes not bad.
It's opposing Venus.
It is opposing Venus.
So I don't know. Maybe it's not necessarily like we're like killing people in the home, but there's lots of strict, rigid rules, maybe specifically about what women can and can't do.
With all those planets in the 10th house, so much is about, and this authority figures, about leaders, about public, something very public.
It kind of seems involved in my mind. I always kind of, with the ninth and the emphasis, I'm like, the government seems like they're involved in some way, or some large governing body, maybe a religious governing body. But if it's not a cult in any way, then I'm kind of thinking it's not religious. Maybe it's more government.
Do you have a question there?
Okay. Is it government related?
The government gets involved.
Okay.
I feel like there's somebody, is there somebody who's hidden?
Yeah, I would say yes. Yeah.
I really feel like there's somebody like trapped, isolated, being emotionally manipulated, I think, into, I don't know, just like.
Do you have a question?
Is there like emotional manipulation and stuff involved in this?
Yes. Okay. Well done.
Is religion part of it?
Actually, yeah. It's nearby. It's not a part of it, but it's nearby.
Like, are the people who are upset about this religious?
Or
is it just kind of like,
I don't know. It's more, I don't want to give anything away. Like,
that's okay.
It's like the people that are religious also kind of try and conceal.
It really does seem like violence is being hidden. Violence that happens at this specific place related to families.
You're doing really well.
The Mercury and Venus in the 10th house is making me think there's words, there's things being said publicly.
Like propaganda.
And there's images. And but that's ruled by the retrograde Saturn. So there's words and images being put into the public.
Does this have something to do with a foreign country?
No.
Okay.
Is there a figure that's very aspirational and someone who's come from far away?
You could say that. I would say aspirational could possibly be the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to throw out some of my guesses.
Yeah.
Actually, one more question: is a student involved?
Yes.
Okay. I think the victim here, or someone who is involved, is a student who's very hardworking, who has potentially recently moved from far away, and is somehow like scammed or manipulated.
I'm feeling like, okay, this is weird. Is this student like doing some sort of like cleaning job or like service job?
They were doing a job earlier in the morning. Okay. They were picking fruit for like a neighbor, like a farm.
Ooh, okay.
That's amazing. They said that.
Yeah.
Because also I was going to say something literally related to food because of the Taurus, but like, I was like, are they cooking? Like, but it feels like there was some sort of like service being done for someone else.
And so the law gets involved. I don't know if it seems like maybe the father gets involved, but also the mother is a mother figure is very wanting change.
Is the mother the villain in this?
No, the parents are hugely positive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like change and everything. Publicity after.
Gosh, so that something happened probably to their kid. I'm
ready to hear the story.
You're doing amazing. Too. It's a terribly sad story. This is about the disappearance of Daniel Morcombe, which was a hugely famous case in Australia. This chart is from the disappearance. he was like, it was unsolved for 8 years before they found the guy.
Wow.
And it was like particularly heartbreaking because the kid was 13. And so Emily, you mentioned early on, if like, was this something that happened in the home that changed the whole family? Like, yes. I don't know if there was anything going on at home. I have no idea. That's sort of not related to the case. Like, you'd think not, because the parents were so genuine in their care and like advocating after. So I'll just show this incident with the time.
This chart really does read as a disappearance, though. Like
you said that a lot.
Chart ruler is, and like the Saturn in the 4th, I feel like is very much like disappearance.
Daniel Morcombe was an Australian boy who was abducted from the Sunshine Coast, Queensland on 7th December 2003 when he was 13 years old. By the way, the time that he went missing is an estimate of about 30 minutes. So I just put the time in the middle of this window. 8 years later, Brett Peter Cowan, a former Sunshine Coast resident, was charged with Morcombe's murder. In the same month, DNA tests confirmed bones in the Glasshouse Mountains were Daniel Morcombe's. On 13th March 2014, Cowan was found guilty of the murder and sentenced to life imprisonment for the murder, indecently dealing with a child, and interference with a corpse. So the disappearance, Daniel, on Sunday, 7th December 2003, Daniel planned to catch the 1:35 p.m. bus to the Sunshine Plaza shopping centre for a haircut and to buy Christmas presents. The bus stop was unofficial under the Keel Mountain Road overpass in the Woombye district of the Sunshine Coast, approximately 2 kilometers from the Big Pineapple. But the bus had broken down. When a replacement bus arrived, it skipped Daniel's stop, as this bus stop was unofficial and the bus was already running late. The driver radioed the depot for the next bus to go and pick up Daniel. Other witnesses later reported seeing 2 men near Morcombe. Witnesses reported seeing Morcombe at approximately 2:10 p.m. under the overpass. And when the second bus arrived, only 3 minutes later, Morcombe and the men were gone. So the investigation, Daniel Morcombe's disappearance, was one of the most extensively investigated crimes in Queensland history. In 2003, police held a reenactment under the Keel Mountain Road overpass with a mannequin dressed like the teenager. Detectives traced the sedan that was nearby of his disappearance. 2004, about 1,000 people attended a memorial service for Daniel. A $250,000 reward was posted by the Queensland government for information leading to the arrest or conviction in the case. Police released 3 sketches of a man seen near Daniel while he waited for the bus. In 2008, a record $1 million private reward was offered for information about Daniel's disappearance. And there were many sex offenders or known like pedophiles nearby that were investigated or kind of put out into the media, but none of those were convicted. And the actual guy that was caught in the end, he was a suspect from the very beginning, but they couldn't pin anything on him for a really long time. In 2009, the parents put a life-size clay model of the man believed to be involved in Morcombe's abduction to the spot where he disappeared. And within a few days, they received more than 300 tips. In 2011, after an extensive Mr. Big operation, police took in Brett Peter Cowan and charged him with Daniel Morcombe's murder. Now, a Mr. Big tactic is where the police almost like falsify an entire world. They will approach the suspect. And with Brett Peter Cowan, it happened on like a flight, and they'll be like, oh, haha, I'm a criminal. And do you want to do this slightly shady job for me? And I think it starts with legal jobs where they get quite a decent payout. And then it consistently transitions to deeper illegal work, like trafficking guns or selling stolen diamonds or paying off corrupt police. But the entire thing is fake. Every person involved are police officers, and they do that until they're leading up to a meeting with Mr. Big, who is meant to be the criminal mastermind in the situation. And then what happens is the Mr. Big person says, you've earned your way into our community of illegal people to this point, but the police are really breathing down our necks about this particular case, which we hear that, you're associated with. but if you give me the right information, we can make that go away. So if you tell us what we need to know, but we need to know what happened so that we can actually dispose of the evidence and make it go away. So then this Miss Brett Peter Cowan, whatever, the bad guy, he confessed to the murder of Daniel Morcombe, and he actually took them to where the body was. Because there is controversy about the Mr. Big technique, where there have been, it was taught to Australia by like Canada. There have been some sort of false confessions because these people
see how it might lead to that. Yeah.
I wonder if the Mr. Big technique is being used in the Lillian Jack Sullivan case in Canada, because that's been going on for so long. And it's like, clearly the father did it, killed those two kids and did something with the body, but the police haven't like arrested him at all. I wonder if but he's kind of a shady dude. I wonder if they're doing the Mr. Big technique on him. Ooh,
maybe because it takes a long time to establish the trust and to coordinate the operations. Like, as I was reading through this technique, they said in one particular operation, they had to have a strip club with two strippers that gave him a lap dance. Not for this man. This is a different story. They gave him a lap dance, and then they had to catch flights and go somewhere else and go to an after party. And every single person involved is a police officer that's like briefed. And
this is like a mega scam. Oh my God. I kind of love it. I kind of hate it, but I kind of love it.
Yeah. It's like,
I kind of love it too.
The cops, but it's kind of like, well, damn. I mean, if it's this, it's like, what Nathan Fielder does for the rehearsal.
Yeah, I know.
That's funny. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there's just controversy because if someone's vulnerable because they are suspected of crimes or whatever it is, or they're outcast by society, and, you know, if they're unemployed, and then these people are like, hey, here's money to do this thing, some people will just take that. But like I said, in this case, the convicted murderer took them to the site where the body was, things like that.
Yeah. I did say 10th house, there's words and images, which is, but like, you know, them making a clay figure.
Oh, that is so interesting to me.
Yeah. Because I actually really thought of media.
Yeah.
But go on. The clay figures are huge.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just skip a little bit to, I wrote Cowan murderer notes. Okay. So when police first interviewed Cowan, he told them he'd been driving past the bus stop on his way to buy marijuana from his drug dealer when he noticed Daniel standing there alone. He admitted that he'd stopped to offer the boy a ride, but had gone on his way when Daniel turned him down. With no real evidence against him, investigators were unable to pursue a case against Cowan. But in 2011, they came up with an idea to get more information out of the suspect. That April, authorities began a sting operation called Mr. Big. An undercover officer befriended Cowan on a flight and brought him into the fake criminal scenarios. By August, Brett Peter Cowan trusted the officers enough that he confided in one of them that he'd kidnapped and killed Daniel Morcombe. The confession was caught on a hidden camera and Cowan was immediately arrested. So Brett Peter Cowan, he offered Daniel a lift to the shopping centre in Maroochydore and Daniel accepted. Mr. Cowan said that he then drove Daniel to an abandoned house on Kings Road, Glasshouse Mountains. This was on the pretext of needing to tell his wife where he was going. And I think you said there's like emotional manipulation. That's exactly what happened. He then invited Daniel into the building at the property to have a glass of water. Mr. Cowan told Arnold that the police officer, that once Daniel was inside the abandoned house, he attempted to sexually assault him. He said that he had choked Daniel after he resisted and tried to escape. He offered no insight into his actions other than saying he was an opportunistic offender. He killed Daniel for no other reason than to avoid detection of his offences. Mr. Cowan told Arnold that he'd placed Daniel's body in the back of his Pajero and disposed of it in thick bushland near an old sand mining site. He had later thrown Daniel's clothing and shoes from a bridge in Coochin Creek. Mr. Cowan, and one of you said drowning. So he didn't drown Daniel, but the clothes were thrown in the creek and later found. And this is like 8 years later as well, and they found some of the clothes.
Wow.
Mr. Cowan said that he returned to the property a week later with a shovel to dispose of any evidence. He found a bone fragment which he broke up and buried. On 10th August 2011, Mr. Cowan flew to Queensland with undercover operatives. He drove with them along the route he took when he abducted Daniel from Mr. Davis's home in Nambour to the Christian Outreach Centre car park near the overpass at Keel Mountain Road and to the abandoned house. Yeah. And to the abandoned house at Kings Road where Daniel was killed. After pointing out the location, Mr. Cowan told police, and that's where it happened. That's where he said, I thought he was going to run and my arm went around his neck and I choked him out and I actually felt that break. So like he died. At the sand mining site, he pointed out where he left Daniel's body and showed police officers the small bridge where Daniel's clothing was thrown into the creek. Mr. Cowan was arrested at the Kings Road site on 13th August 2011. Daniel's remains and items of clothing he was wearing on 7th December 2003 was subsequently recovered from the area identified by Mr. Cowan. Cowan then led the police to the Glass House Mountains where he'd buried the boy. Investigators were able to uncover Daniel's shoes, clothing, and 17 bone fragments. The 8-year search was over. In March 2014, Brett Peter Cowan was sentenced to life in prison for Daniel Morcombe's murder. The boy's family rejoiced at the conviction and the closure it brought to their unimaginable nightmare. And I wanted to add, so if that it wasn't quite clear in that wording, but the murderer, Cowan, he was driving to pick something up from someone's house and he saw Daniel. So he parked at the nearby church, which he attended. And that's where he then spoke to Daniel and said, like, I'll give you a lift, get in my car. And he did.
And he just decided to kill him for no reason?
Just wanted to rape him first.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, he tried to run or whatever. So he wanted to kill him. Yeah. Or he said he just tried to choke him out and then he just died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is horrible. And I'm not sure if I put it in my notes, but Cowan had a series of other previous offenses and he had then, got out of jail at some point, was then going to church and he met the woman who became his wife. So he was in a relationship with a Christian woman for, I think it was a few years. And she originally said that Cowan was with her when the incident happened. And only much later did she admit that Cowan had been gone for like a couple of hours. So like it wasn't a religious incident, but Cowan and his partner were religious and she was, accidentally complicit or whatever by lying for him when he had done it.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what we were
Yeah.
And what we were saying in the last episode of like, leave your shitty partners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that Sun Pluto in the 9th house is kind of like, it is kind of a relief for a really shitty situation, but finally there is closure. They do kind of get that day in court, like.
Which placement was it? Sorry.
The Sun and Pluto in the 9th house. I guess this is of the day that it happened, but like,
yeah, well,
I don't know.
I have the chart.
Yeah.
I have the chart of the confession. Now, take it with a grain of salt because I don't have the exact time, but I figured it says that Cowan flew out with the undercover police officers to show them the scene, say it was like the evening. So then and then it says the next day he took the officers to the scene. So I think I put in a time of 10 a.m. Take it with a grain of salt. But I was shocked when I saw it. Let me just change the screen. Okay, so
Mercury
I was shocked.
Neptune.
I see. Yeah, well, but in when the incident happened, we have Pisces in the IC and Capricorn in the 10th house midheaven, and there's an opposition. Is it Pluto Mars or something? Hang on, but I felt like it's just flipped the chart. Tell me if that's not a legit thing.
Yeah, no, it's true. And this time the Jupiter is in the 8th house instead of the 6th house. So that's really cool.
And the moon and Pluto are conjunct instead of the sun and Pluto. So it's still conjunct a luminary, which I feel like is kind of, and this is happening during fire sign seasons for the sun signs at least. And that Mercury Saturn opposition to Neptune at the same degree. Very interesting.
And Saturn is exalted in Libra, whereas when it happened, Saturn was retrograde and debilitated in Cancer. So it's like, wow, it took 8 years. It took a long time, but justice was finally served. It was a very Saturn and Libra sort of thing.
Yes, definitely.
Right. So I've just put them both on the screen for people that are watching. On the left is when it happened. On the right is the confession. And so when I said, Capricorn is now in the 4th house when originally it was in the 10th house. So because I kind of feel this case had its own career. And originally the 4th house, so when it happened, 4th house Cancer, the 4th house can be family trauma. Yeah, it can just be like heavy family trauma. But then it's opposite Capricorn and it's like that becomes its own career. But then when the confession happens, the Pisces, it's like, so that original 4th house placement is in the 10th house. So it's become public. Like it's visible. Because we also, with the confession, have the sun in Leo in the 11th house. It's like it's visible because the whole of Australia was watching this case and just thinking, how is it possible that this boy just disappeared? And I even feel when it happened, we have Mars in 12th house hidden. And then when the confession happens, Mars is in the 10th house. Like
it's
that
like we finally
ability. Yeah.
Wow.
I was just
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just read a little bit more. This is I just have to put one on the screen. Can you see?
And that's really the cycle of astrology is, it's the fuck around starts. And then when you get to the opposition, that's the find out.
Right. Yeah. Crazy. And
somewhat related to that, I'm thinking when Saturn was in Libra, that was kind of the rise of gentle parenting and everything. And now that Saturn is going into Aries, I'm not a fan of this, but now there's this rise of this fuck around and find out parenting, which I feel like is going to raise a lot of sociopaths, honestly. But
I just had a peer of mine who had a baby and I looked at that event chart. I looked at that natal chart.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh my.
Is that baby going to be a sociopath?
It makes me question the baby's parents that I thought were like, I don't know, like childhood friends. We don't have to get into that.
It's so fascinating watching friends have kids because obviously it changes everything. And as someone that doesn't have kids yet, I don't understand, period. Like, and I recognize that. But then for me being a healer, some of the things that I see them do, I'm like, you're not hearing or seeing your child's boundaries. And I now know you're not respecting that. And I know the fallout from that because I helped so many people through it. But the thing that breaks my heart the most, is like when I see generational trauma being passed on so obviously, but all I can do is be supportive and be a friend without, it's not mine to carry either, but I find it really painful seeing trauma be passed on.
It's so crazy. It's like these parents, do you not remember what it was like to be a kid? It's like when you have it's like when they have kids, they suddenly forget what it was like to be a kid and they are such assholes to their children. I do not understand.
It happened a little bit with me. I needed to check myself whenever I was a teacher. Kids get under your skin, but at the same time, they're just kids.
Yeah.
There's so many decisions that need to be made before the birth of a child that like so many people just don't make. Like, I don't even know. It's like,
do you even like children?
Yeah. Like,
is the answer to that genuinely yes? Like, have you babysat a child for a week?
Because if it pisses you off in a week, then don't be a parent. Like you don't have to be.
Do the healing work, I'd say, to prepare. I was listening to someone who said, like, you're raising adults, you're raising future adults. You're not just raising babies. And so, like, treating them and teaching them because they're going to be adults, they need to learn to be independent, to have their own authority, to make decisions. Like, just telling them to be obedient is not going to help. And then that's where, get molested and stuff. Or like, if they're just obedient and passive and don't have boundaries and things, so they're just taught to be quiet.
Speak up for themselves too. Yeah. And then they also don't trust their caregivers if something like that happens to them, like at school or somewhere, like at an extracurricular activity. They don't trust their caregivers to tell them what happened.
Yes. But I will say there's more to it because like sleep deprivation is huge. And depending, if someone could have a great partner, but then XYZ happens with work and suddenly they can't be, like, there are so many factors to having kids as well. But I will also put out there that I know a couple that recently had a baby, and they are the most prepared, sovereign people that have prioritized the baby, prioritized their health. Like, there are people out there ticking all the boxes, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But I would also add, even friends that I have that I see having a hard time parenting, they're not all bad. You know, we see good things too. Also, this global shift that we're seeing with women choosing to have less babies overall, I think that's a huge
choosing to be
positive.
Single parents. I've seen a lot of women who are purposefully being a single parent, and they've gone through all the steps of needing to show that they're prepared for that sort of thing, and not needing a partner.
I think in many ways that's better, because so many women are parenting their husbands and parenting a child. And that's a lot of work. Yeah.
Let me wrap up this case.
Yes. Yeah.
So on 13th March 2014, Cowan was found guilty of all charges.
Yeah.
Cowan had had two previous convictions for child sex offences. On 14th March 2014, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. He was also sentenced for 3.5 years imprisonment for indecently dealing with Morcombe, and 2 years for interfering with his corpse, which means like hiding it from authorities and disposing of it and stuff. Those sentences to be served concurrently. The judge said, I don't think you should be doing the minimum of 20 years. Like, I think it should be more, but like, he got life imprisonment, minimum 20. Cowan appealed his sentence, seeking to have his conviction overturned. His legal team argued that the confession elicited through an undercover sting by police was inadmissible as evidence at trial, because of the possible controversy with the Mr. Big falsifying whatever.
Yeah, like possible coercion. Yeah.
Yes. But May 2015, that appeal was dismissed, and the former Queensland Attorney General Jared Bleasley, had appealed to have Cowan's 20-year minimum sentence increased, but that was also dismissed. So Daniel Morcombe, his life dates were 19th December 1989 to 7th December 2003. And two more things I want to say. The impact, his parents created.
Oh, so the 1989 birthday, he was born.
That was I was thinking.
Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
Yeah.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Whoa.
We've been talking about 1989. That's been like a thing.
I can pull up his birth chart and like open it. I didn't, because I don't even have an estimate of time, and I wasn't sure of the location either.
It's okay.
I just thought that's too much guessing.
Yeah, it's totally okay.
But just the Daniel Morcombe Foundation, the Morcombe family started this foundation and put its resources into keeping Morcombe's disappearance in the public eye and trying to find out what happened to their son. The foundation still exists and is committed to educating children about personal safety and raising awareness throughout Australia of the dangers of predatory criminals. These efforts are supported by the Australian media, especially on each anniversary of Morcombe's disappearance, when a Day for Daniel is held to promote awareness of the vulnerability of children. An accompanying event.
I've heard of the Day for Daniel.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
I feel like
they're huge.
Yeah,
they have a really big influence. They've been in the media a lot. And they have an accompanying event, Ride for Daniel, which is 50 kilometers of the Sunshine Coast, held each year since 2005. And in the media, there was a series of TV shows and TV special that followed. Crime Investigation Australia on season 1, episode Tears for Daniel, a film called Where is Daniel, a case file, true crime podcast on it. Daniel Morcombe's father, Bruce Morcombe, was on the TV show from ABC called You Can't Ask That, which was focused on families of missing persons. So he talked about his experience of having his son go missing in the aftermath. And then there was a film about it as well, which the Morcombe family did not approve of. And there was also Daniel's Law was created. In 2025, Queensland legislation established the state's first public child sex offender register, Daniel's Law, named in honour of Morcombe. The register was first introduced to Queensland Parliament August 2025. So there ended up being, huge media, big change, big impact on the family.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. What a great story.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so interesting, like in America, like at least for me, I've never heard of this story. It's just so interesting how different events. Sometimes they make it across the world and then like sometimes they don't. And I don't know, that's so interesting.
I remember for many years that, you know, it would just pop up on the TV again and again. I remember my dad being like, that poor kid, he was just at a bus stop and nobody knows like what happened. And he was seen, and like, it's just crazy that one bus went past and the next bus was like 3 minutes later and then he was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so glad the family got a resolution.
Yeah. It's so good to know that like 8 years later, you can figure out what happened. And what a great story.
There are some families that still don't know.
Yeah.
And they're still wondering about like their family members. Like to get that closure, I'm sure is like so much relief for them.
Yeah. And this is the Astrology of Terrible Things. Definitely check out Emily's TikTok series at her TikTok, Emily Simile, Emily spelled with an I-E, and check out Cosmic Batter podcast with Karla Herschell. Link in the show notes. And if you're listening to us for the first time, please give us a like, a rating, a review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to podcasts. Share it with a friend so that more people can find this. And we have an Instagram, The Astrology of Terrible Things, all on Instagram. If you want to share a chart with us, email at theastrologyofterriblethings@gmail.com. Until next time, be terrible, stay terrible.
Stay terrible.
Terrible.
Stay terrible.
Bye.